Hey everyone, welcome to West Coast Wednesdays. My name is Justin Ancheta with SF Garnish Music Production, and we're here to talk about bass tones specifically. So, right, there's so many different ways to create your bass tones, and what's the style and genre, and what are you going for? How can you stay creative in the limitless ideas and creations you can do in the digital audio workstation? I'm working in Ableton Live 11 Suite today. If you guys want to learn Ableton, Logic, Pro Tools, FL Studios, any digital audio workstation, mixing and mastering, sound design, check out sf.garnishmusicproduction.com. Thank you to the Garnish Music Network for having us out every Wednesday for the West Coast Wednesdays from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. My name's Justin from Soul Graffiti Studios and SF Garnish. And once again, talking about bass tones here. What we're listening to, I'll turn it up a little bit so you guys can hear it, is many bass tones mixed together. We have the ukulele bass, the regular bass, and then the stand-up bass. Also, with a MIDI operator bass, maybe wavetable, I believe it might be. So what I'm going to do is kind of just break this down and start from scratch with you guys, even going through creating the drums, how my layout is here set up, and just so you guys can really understand this session view and arrangement view as well, but mostly session view of Ableton today. So here I am in session view. These are the clips that I've created already, and I've recorded them by record enabling a track and then clicking on a circle, which means it's ready to record, and then clicking there and recording the track. I also have a push 2 in front of me, so it kind of makes it easier instead of having a mouse click around. Today, I'll try and use my mouse as much as possible so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. I have this laid out where my bass and drums are all in this group together. When I click on here, you can kind of see this line of where the group is created. Command G creates groups once you highlight a section of tracks. And then I have this all track that everything is going to. The reason why I have this is that it's just an easy way to clean up, this view if you really want to for a live show or your production. And then I have the all setting to my effects all. And this is where I have automations coming in, where I have effects that can be changed, right? Right down here, I have fade to gray coming in and out, the pump up, which is really like a limiter and pusher, compressor going on. And everything else should be in this off mode, effects off, because that means that if we ever accidentally turn effect on, when we start our master clip over here, it will disengage any effect because it's automated to turn off. If you guys have any questions about this, please comment, like, subscribe, and get a hold of us, sf@garnishmusicproduction.com. We'd be happy to help you with your production needs at our studio or online. In person or online, some options for you. So I named a few here of different tracks that I did. I'll just turn this up so we can hear it. Right, so I just created a basic drum beat. I'm gonna do this with you guys, and then brought in some other instruments. So some other instruments there. I'm going to open up my preferences by command comma. That's the shortcut code. And you can see that I'm at 256 sample rate. Okay. I'm in this kind of middle range. When I'm doing a live show, I bring my sample rate down so it can have less latency. And then when I'm in mixing mode, listening back, I can bring this up. And the latency doesn't really matter because I'm not playing any live instrument. For now, I'll stay at the 256 because I'll be doing some live instruments, both on the push and live with these instruments in front of me. All right, so let's get into this. I've already put these channels, right, into the appropriate locations, right? So my 1/4 inch cord is working for 2930, and then I have a microphone for 12. It's right over here. It's actually only engaged when I put this in record mode. Okay, and that's because I have my monitor in auto mode. If you expand this out over here, you can kind of see it a little bit better, right? In, auto, or off. Auto means that you can hear this channel, right? Coming through. Any effects you have put in here, you can hear it. I personally have been really enjoying playing in auto and turning off my monitor on my X32, which is my audio interface, and utilizing the effects and compressions inside Ableton. This is both, obviously for the mixing side of things, but also for a live situation. You could do a lot of cool effects and then also making your bass tones the way you want. So let's get into this. Let's go ahead and start with our drum track here. I'll expand this out so we can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to go shift stop clip on my push 2. Okay, that's a stop all. This function is also seen on our master channel. This square right here can also be stop all. If you click on this, everything is unengaged. I'm in record mode down here on with the red on. If you guys aren't seeing the red, that means that your audio interface isn't set up in input mode, right? Your input device has to be pointing toward your audio interface, right? So if you can't get that red, just check that in your preferences. Okay, what I like to do is turn my metronome on up here. You can click here, push 2. You can just click on the metronome button. And when I click this, my 92 BPM starts up. You guys aren't hearing that because I don't have it in your monitor yet. I'll change that to the same output, 1, 2. It's a great tool to be able to put your cues, right, to your personal headphones so that at a live show, it doesn't need to be to everyone, right? So your cue out can change. Your audio interface obviously has to have multiple outputs, more than just 1, 2, right? Your stereo left, right. You have to have your 3, 4, or whatever. Luckily, the X32 has many options, even more than this. I only have 16 engaged right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do, if you guys have your Akai MPK Mini or whatever MIDI device you have, you can find out where on the keyboard or the pads your drums are at. For me, I have the notes on the push 2, and I'm going to put it in repeat mode. What repeat mode does is it allows it to be in tempo. So I'm literally just holding my finger down. Make sure you guys can see my hi-hat here, engaging, right? So it allows me, instead of having to like click it over and over again, like that, right? Take some more effort. We can be right to grid. But you can also put a nice swing on it. So you can actually press quantize. I'm doing this with the push, by the way, so it's a little bit easier. Push is the only device that Ableton has created. So it really works well with Ableton. I'm putting the swing amount to about 14. Okay. And then the quantize amount, I'll put to about 90. And it's to the 16th note. And quantize, record quantize, I'll say yes. Notice how there's a little bit more of a feel to it now. All right, so here we go. We'll press record. So that was set to record, let's say fixed length is set to 8 bars, right? So that's why it did that. Now, easily with the push, you can just bring that down in length, which is what I just did, or put in 4 bars instead. Okay, it's super quick. Instead of having to take your mouse and drag it over to the exact spot. Okay. So there we have our drums with that 14% swing. Let's see if we can even quantize that again. Okay, I'll make sure I select all these. Cool, already quantized. 89% quantized. Let's go ahead and do 100% quantized to that 14% swing. I'm going to select all of these and press quantize. If you guys don't have a push, you would right click, right? And quantize. Your quantize settings, you can set to whatever you want, right? Here's your 16th note, quantize amount, 100%. Adjust notes at the start, that's great. Now the swing amount, you're gonna have to actually put into groove patterns, which is over here, right? So that's where the push really kind of makes it easier. It's just easier. So here we go. We got a basic beat going on, and I'm going to start off with ukulele bass. So we're talking about the source, right? We're talking about different tones, how we want to record them, what type of effects we want to put on them to make them sound good. So let's start off with the ukulele bass. I'm going to record enable the ukulele bass, switching over using the push 2. All right, as you guys can see, I got it right here. There might be a better angle actually so you guys can see. No, that's not really a good angle. There we go. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is just play along to the track and record enable when I can. Take it out of tuning mode. Something simpler. So notice there's a little bit behind the beat. I'm going to press the quantize. I'm just going to bring it right onto the beat there. And it's still doing the 14% swing and the record amount. Cool. Now this tone of the ukulele bass, I personally think it emulates that kind of that nice and clean operator tone quite a bit. One thing that we really want to pay attention to, I'm going to press Shift Tab, and it switches over, right, these two views. You can also hit down here, right, on your bottom right-hand side to switch between your effects and your wave pattern or your MIDI pattern. But Shift Tab, super helpful. So you can see that I already have a strong threshold compression, right, pushing it. And then we have our EQ rolling off quite a bit of the highs. Everything above like 4K is rolled off. We have a little bit of chorus on it. We have a limiter and a utility that we can increase the volume here. We bring our master volume down a little bit more. So here we are, you know, positive 10 dB on this gain structure. It's just a nice way to pop it out, just even for, you know, listening to the track while you're trying to mix the sound, right? Let's listen to the frequencies here. Let's open this up. This little triangle here opens up your EQ larger. Take off the click. So a lot of the rumbles around this, you can kind of see 69, 70 hertz. Sometimes you want to bring out something a little bit higher to get like more of a pop or attack on your kick or bass. Then in general, I think this 2 is kind of what we want, but we want to change our cue point and widen it out. Just bring this all up here. And even that 300 range is pretty good too. So that's a pretty big increase, 6 dB. You can kind of see over here in the scale here. Oz Fritz, teacher of mine, also a teacher at SF Garnish, he changes things by 1.5 to 3 dB, most often. Sometimes drastic, when it's called for, but most often, it just goes up by like 0.5 dB or 1.5 dB, just small moments, certain frequencies. All right, so we have this little breakdown here with that bass, and we can kind of bring that back in volume again, put it back in the mix. You can also, when you're up in volume here, notice I'm on the bottom right hand corner with utility. You can just double click and it brings it back to nominal. Okay, so sometimes when you're just trying to get there really quick, I'll bring a little bit up. Okay, so we have a little bit of ukulele bass. Notice it's a small instrument. That's why I actually want you guys to visually see these different instruments, right? But the strings are really wide. It's like big rubbery strings, so it brings in a lot of the low tone. And because of the string being this kind of soft rubber, it doesn't have a big attack at all. So what I want to do is I'm going to stop this channel. This is our stop all button right here. Let's bring this EQ down again. And let's go to our next regular bass. And notice the tone of this. Also, I have a stronger EQ on this because there's so much kind of high end on this anyway. So realize I have it rolled off and we're still going to hear a lot of it. So let's go ahead and start that beat again. Turn that up a little bit. Okay, so with the electric, what I want to do is actually play along with that ukulele bass. But notice how it sounds way different, right? Pretty quiet. You want to hear a little bit more, see a little bit more of the waveform if you can. That's your input level on your audio interface. Let's quantize that, get that really tight. I'm a guitarist, so quantize is helping me become a tight bassist here. Turning off record mode. If it's all red here, any movement you do with your fader or anything, it's going to be actually, it's going to automate, right? So just get out of that so you can kind of adjust your levels. Now here you can start comparing your tones by your mute function. I'm going to bring this up using this gain boost so we can get to see it a little better. So we're just listening to the regular bass, the electric bass. Now the ukulele bass. I'll do the same thing here. Let's bring that back up so we can kind of hear it. Notice the warmth of the ukulele bass in comparison. There's a less attack. but that warmth is pretty cool. Put those two together. The slide on the regular bass, you know, those frets are really kind of standing out with the steel wrapped strings. Let's go ahead and move on to our next instrument here, which is going to be the stand-up. Okay, we have a live microphone here, so it's going to be a little bit different sounding for a sec here, but let's try this out. All right, so it's still set to that 8-bar phrase, so I didn't have to actually run back and press the button again. This is where, when we're listening to it, right, in the beginning I was walking over. You can always set up to where it will start recording, right? Up here, you change this to like record after 2 bars or 4 bars, so it gives you time to walk over to the new instrument if you're doing like a live looping set or whatever. So for now, I'm just gonna bring this in, take it out of record mode. You can also do that by clicking here. I'm using a lot of the push, guys. Sorry, I can't really see it. In the future, I'll get like an overhead of the push too, so you can kind of see the layout, what I'm working with. Sometimes when you quantize, it's not really exactly what you want. So you can take out little bits of it. Let's bring this up in volume again. Let's look at the EQ structure of this. Essentially, what a wah pedal does is move this around, right? With maybe a wider cue point. Similarly, you can widen this out. Cool. So rolling out some of that kind of okay, let's see how this sounds together. So our loops are a little bit different here. How many, you count our bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 4th one has that space. Let's check out the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4th one has a space. Here's this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it doesn't have the space at the end here, but we can create that. So this is actually something that super cool tool is Ableton 10 is different than 11, right? So if you're not in Ableton 11 yet, they won't have this feature like this, but it changes to where you can have all of your automations on this side. We're gonna purposely go into Mixer, track volume. Actually, you know, instead of using Mixer, let's see if we can have utility. Is there a utility? Here it is. Let's go to utility, okay? Because sometimes we don't want to affect our main gain structure so that we can continue mixing later on and not mess up our automations. So let's go ahead, and our gain on utility is going to drop. And let's do a nice fade out right here. So it's going to be curved. Chunk, chunk. Oh, you guys are still hearing this microphone. Let's turn that off. Okay, cool. So a little bit better, nice quieter area. So when you hover over something, right, it shows the line, right, highlighted, and then you press the Alt key. And I can put that, I can change that to kind of be a nice fade out. Let's listen to that and see how that sounds. So one of the basses is doing a little bit different. It might be these. That's that space at the end that we created. Okay, that's it. So this bass right here, it's almost sounding like other notes are being played just because of that slide. Right? And this is where, once again, you can take your utility. It's in mixer. And there it is. Utility gain. And right here, we can just like bring that down. Let's make this nice and clean. And fade that with a gentle slope. And if you right click on it, you can actually do, you know, a couple different ideas of slopes and things. So that probably is not what I want. Let's try a different one. There we go. Cool. Cool. Let's just do that. So we can really start doing an A/B comparison now of the different tones. softer threshold here. So the stand-up bass, for a couple reasons, isn't sounding that good. One being that the microphone I'm using is pretty far away from the source, right? So you really got to think of those stages of recording. The source being the instrument, your voice, whatever you're recording. The microphone, how close is it? Is it set up in the nice location, or is it direct? How does your direct signal sound? Then you're going in and then doing these extra EQ, compression, chorus, and starting to mix that sound. So I would say the stand-up bass we didn't give it justice, because this should have been probably about 6 to 8 inches off from the F hole on the stand-up bass. But with that said, we don't need to use it. I think I really like the tone of the ukulele bass and the regular bass. The last one I wanted to test out for you guys, let's go ahead and stop all again, is getting a MIDI device. Okay, so I already loaded this in. You can always press Command-Shift-T to get a new MIDI track. It'll always put it to the right of wherever your cursor is. And I brought in this bass selector, and it has these presets in here. You can create your own presets as well. Pretty amazing. Anytime that you change a function over here, just press New and then name it yourself, and you can easily come to different locations on your sounds. So let's just listen to this really quick. The different sounds. There's an acoustic bass. I'm gonna bring that up in volume so we can hear a little better. Super growly, boom sub bass. And call it June O bass. So it's just changing a few. I see the dry wet signal on the amp is changing a little bit. A couple different portions of your bass selector, your drive, your volume, your filter cutoff. And there's quite a bit inside here, right, to manipulate and change. You can create your own instruments like this, and you can take away and add your macro buttons or knobs, right? So obviously there's only 4 created here, so we're just gonna stick to those 4 for now. It's nice and clean. And then once you create your own instrument, you then can save it and put it into your collections in the right file and folder that you want. So I don't exactly know what these notes are that I'm playing. So let's figure out what those are. There we go. All right, let's get back into doing drums. I'll probably play with the ukulele bass for this recording. Unmute it. Really cool. I'm using the slide function to have that pull down on the electric bass selector that we're creating right here. So let's go ahead and try and record that. So this is highlighted, right? And we're in record mode, so it's going to record in this location. If my highlight's here, it would record down there, right? If I'm pressing my record button on the push. So let's be in that record mode. If you don't have push, you can always, click your mouse here or set Command M, right? A function to record any specific channel, or maybe your master channel down here for stop, start, record, enable. It's another nice trick. So here we go. See exactly where that is. It's kind of peaking. Oops. So notice how that red dot came in right here. That's showing me that the automation's on. I'll go Command Z to undo that. Come out of record mode, right? You can press this button right here or on the push. Bring it down in volume. And let's quantize this. See, just push these over just a tad bit. All right, so there we have the tone of this instrument. One nice thing about this is that, let's turn off this ukulele bass for a moment and just really analyze changing these now. So just like that, we have the ability to change through. Maybe just having a higher tone. And notice as well that there's an extra pitch right here that got hit. We can just take that out, clean that up. The beautiful thing about MIDI is how easy it is to manipulate and move before and after playing. Let's go ahead and press the Master All. And you guys aren't seeing it because my head is there right now. But Master All, there it is, in the upper right-hand corner. So having that octave of this bass here kind of makes these other basses kind of sound good. Now I'm not using the stand-up at all. I can click on this and press 0 just to, take out some of the CPU usage, right? Just I'm zeroing that out, meaning I'm deactivating that track. Click on it again, it won't play, even if this is in record mode. So our CPU usage is up here at 50% right now, probably because I have quite a bit of effects on this specific, session. But also, this is something really good in 11. Notice how this little line's popping up, pressing the C right here. And you guys can't see it again because my head. There we go. All right, so this C right here that I'm pressing, when I bring that up, this is actually how much CPU usage is being used per channel. right? So when I start playing, look at this Kingsway kit. It's just ridiculous CPU usage. So let's say we want to do something here to make this easier. We're going to freeze this track. Essentially what we're doing when we freeze a track is it's telling the computer to play the track and make it sound how you have it set up, but don't work so hard, right? It's saying like, we're going to freeze everything how you like it so that we can just recall it right away and not have to think so hard. It's going to take a little bit of time here, but not too long. And what that does though, it's going to free up our CPU usage, right? At a live show, you know, most tracks should be frozen except the tracks that you're wanting to manipulate live. Okay, because once you freeze a track, you can't be changing out the EQ and manipulating portions of it. It's going to be all frozen together. But this is definitely a way to have your workflow just continue moving forward, right? If you start losing CPU usage, or it's starting to kind of like your sound is starting to crack out, which just happens, make those crackly sounds above the 50% CPU usage. This is a way to get around it. I'm going to also show you once again a way to get around that, which is changing your buffer latency, right? So I had that at 256 because I wanted to play the instruments and not have any lag time using all the effects in Ableton. So I was like 256. You can go all the way down to like 128 even. But when I'm in mix mode, I can go up to 500 or 1,000 and have it where, like if I played with it, it would have a latency, right? But since I'm just listening back, it doesn't quite matter, and it allows me to have all the controls of the effects and add in more, and there's that buffer zone to where the computer can manage it better. So let's go ahead and play this exact same thing. Remember, it was at 50% before. Notice up here in the upper right-hand corner, we're at 30 to 20 range percentage, way less. When I look at the little controls down here now, this isn't using any CPU usage. Our bass, our electronic basses, and our regular basses, maybe because we have some specific effects on this one. I think I actually added in like a little bit of a wah on this, you guys. If I even take off some of this, that might even help out. So anyway, you want your effects the way you want them, right? So don't kind of like go small on doing what you want, but this is a workflow that can work. I have a, pretty strong computer here, but still in complex digital audio workstation environments, you want to save your CPU usage sometimes. I'm going to open again, Command, comma, the preference. And preferences in the audio preferences, right? This is where our audio interface is showing in and out, but also our 256 sample rate. If I go to 512 or 124, this should also give us a buffer and help create our CPU and our computer running more smoothly, doing more effects. If you guys have external effects going on, this is really going to help out with your CPU usage. Let's go ahead and play this and look at our CPU usage now. So we were at, high 20s to 30s, and now we're in the low 20s. It even hit like 19 at one point, right? Playing the exact same track. Okay. So as you're going through your scenes, you got your basses going on. You can add them together. These are all in mono. They're not panned. Panning, you can kind of get into some phasing issues, but it also can be a pretty cool effect to have unique basses on sides of your mix. And start creating your variation, right? In your master chain right here, you can just move through these. Now this is a part where I wanted this to be something else. So I'm gonna actually go duplicate, Command D on this bass, brings it over. And I'm gonna make sure that this specific channel now change the tone. Much better tone for that specific part of the song. All right, so we can actually take this off record mode so that we can just play these tracks and not accidentally record anything. So go ahead and let me know which types of sounds you're wanting to hear, or which ones that you like the best out of these. Like, once again, we're talking about bass tones and how to kind of create a track really from scratch, and trying out different tones, utilizing the effects within Ableton for your live show, or to even get the right vibe when you're recording, right? Sometimes I use the compression and the EQ within my audio interface, which is the X32 rack that I'm using today. But there's times when you might want to go and use the hundreds and thousands of effects within Ableton that are in the Ableton 11 suite to get really creative, right? So we now have our basses, our 4 different basses, right? We went through our ukulele bass, we went through the regular electric bass with the steel strings, the stand-up bass, and then also the electronic bass, which has the different presets inside there that we were testing out. We're gonna go in, and instead of just doing the compression and EQ regular things with the utility and chorus, we're gonna go in and start putting in phasing, right? And different effects to have that, maybe have a wah effect going on. I'm also gonna talk a little bit, because I have maybe 10 more minutes here, to your presets and how you can kind of get back to these presets really easily by your collections. Make sure you name these up here, color code which ones you like. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into affecting some of these. So this is just the bass selector, just as it is in that fine line bass. And what I want to do now is put some wah on it. Let's see if I think I named it wah. Okay, so this is a bass ukulele with phaser wah. Let's put this on the end. I don't necessarily want some of these on here. Don't really need the chorus. Maybe that could be cool. This limiter would be nice. Crossover phase, let's put this on the other side. The limiter at the very end is what I want to do. Nice. So this crossover phaser, let's just go dry wet to hear the difference. I think I want my compressor on. I don't really like that attack up there. Take that off. Kind of cool how it's actually making that little bit of a different tonal attack, right? Because it's kind of doing that phasing. Going ahead and just kind of seeing the extremes and then bringing it back to where you want them. this is a track that I did just before our session today, and I'll talk more about. So it's pretty straight, right? And I can select all of it and quantize it with that 14%. Just move it a little bit. Even our main beat. Actually, you know what? Because it's frozen, that's where quantize cannot happen. You have to unfreeze that to work on that. So that's a great example of that. Quantizing that to a little bit of swing. All right, so you're kind of in this place now where you can kind of start messing around. Being able to stop and like get into different parts. Thank you guys so much for being here for West Coast Wednesdays. We're not totally done yet, but I really want to make sure that you guys know about this. Every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're going through different ideas of mixing and mastering and sound design. I'm working in Ableton today, but we also do Logic and Pro Tools. We have special guests on our show. Pretty soon, we're going to have Ben Wiley come through and talk about his DJ set, and also Ableton, which is the two tools that he uses as a DJ and a producer. And we're just going for it every Wednesday through 2021. And we have a school based in North Oakland, SF Garnish Music Production, but there's 8 locations worldwide. Thanks to Dave Garnish for opening up. Let's see, we have LA, Miami, New York, Nashville, Tokyo, UK, Germany. I'm missing one. I think maybe is it somewhere in Spain, somewhere else in Europe, right? So there's quite a bit of options for you guys for in-person lessons at these boutique studios with all this professional gear and teachers, or you can get your lessons online. Our academy is 360 hours. Our producer program is 120 hours. And our short courses are 18 to 36 hours, depending on how much you want to do. Most often, people go through Ableton 101, 201 in 36 hours, roughly 6 to 12 weeks of courses. And you get not only the basics of Ableton, but the workflow, the shortcut codes, and how to start manipulating sound with the DAW so that you really can get a grasp on where to go, how to do it, and just stay creative in your workflow. When you show up to your digital audio workstation and your computer, you don't want to go down the rabbit hole of just like pressing buttons and realizing 3 hours went by and you didn't get anywhere, right? So we're there to help you guys learn how to stay creative and get your music flow going on so you guys can produce your music and get your music out there. We have also theory classes and all styles of music classes throughout the academy. So come talk to us, sf@garnishmusicproduction.com, or you can talk to Kyle in our booking of the classes, kyle@garnishmusicproduction.com. And I'm just going to go ahead and mess around with some of these controls. I'm not going to be talking through it all because I'll be moving pretty fast, but notice how I'm going to be starting to throw in effects, DJ effects, and manipulate the sounds in post-production for the last bit of this course. This is after we kind of get our tones and our bass and our drums, in a general way, then we can start changing our sounds the way we want from there. All right, let's go back into our session here. I'll talk through a few more things and then just go out for the next 5. But I'm going to move these up so we can kind of see them nicely. And I want this all in like one location so I can really see it clearly. Okay, so we have our risers there. Up a little bit. We're not searching for anything right now. guys join our school, we give you access to a bunch of plugins, samples that are going to help you out quite a bit. I'm curious if I can even put this in here. Not quite. We want to keep that out of our whole effects chain. Sweet. All right, just jamming her out a little bit. Once again, my name's Justin Ancheta with SF Garnish Music Production. Just doing a little bit of jamming here with the bass tones that we just created today, some drums. And if you guys have any questions, contact us, sf@garnishmusicproduction.com. Thank you to the Garnish Music Network for inviting us out for the umpteenth time. We're going to be finishing off this year strong every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please like and subscribe and share what you're seeing. We're going live to our YouTube, our Facebook, and our Twitch pages. And we look forward to seeing you here in the near future. Contact us, sf@garnishmusicproduction.com, 510-463-GROW. Ciao.